Coming up on Network Africa. Ousted Burkina Faso President Roch Kabore said to be in good health and detained in a presidential villa. Malawi declares disaster zones amid deadly floods following tropical storm Anna. Plus, Ghana denies introducing compulsory travel insurance for travelers. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Tenyola Shobowale. We begin with an update on the situation in Burkina Faso. Days after a military takeover in the country, a senior party member of ousted President Roch Kabore says he's doing well. According to him, Mr. Kabore is detained in a presidential villa under house arrest. He's physically well and has a doctor at his disposal. For several hours on Monday, the fate of the ousted president remained unclear, with conflicting information circulating about an arrest and an assassination attempt. An extraordinary virtual summit of the West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, will be held on Friday to discuss the situation in Burkina Faso after Mr. Kabore was overthrown with possible sanctions against the military. Malawi President Lazarus Chakwera has declared parts of the country disaster areas after 19 people were killed in floods caused by tropical storm Anna. The deaths have been reported in at least 5 districts in southern Malawi, where more than 50 people also suffered various degrees of injuries. Up to 44 camps have been set up to help thousands of displaced people. More than 20,000 people in neighboring Mozambique have also been affected by the storm.
The road out of Chikwawa in southern Malawi is now badly destroyed. The bridge is just one casualty of tropical storm Anna, which has also destroyed homes and taken lives. It swept through southern Africa since making landfall in Mozambique on Monday. Authorities in Mozambique and Malawi say at least 19 people have died, though officials and aid agencies are still assessing the full impact. People in the southern Malian town of Chikwawa says the worst destruction they've experienced.
This is devastating. Look, all my maize crop has been buried. I planted 1.5 acres. All the crop is gone. This disaster is the second one I've experienced in my life, but this is the worst.
At first, we experienced a heavy storm that took away the roof. 4 houses around here were destroyed, and this cyclone has caused a lot of damage. All my property has been destroyed.
In neighboring Mozambique, the National Institute for Management and Disaster Risk Reduction said more than 20,000 people have been affected. 3,000 homes partially destroyed and 600 totally destroyed, along with several healthcare centers and dozens of classrooms. Southern African countries have been repeatedly hit by severe storms and cyclones in recent years, destroying infrastructure and displacing large numbers of people. Experts say the storms have become stronger as waters have warmed due to climate change, while rising sea levels have made low-lying coastal areas vulnerable.
Malawian journalist Yvonne Sundu joins us now for more on the situation. Yvonne, we just saw some images there from one of the worst affected regions in Malawi, Chikwawa. Paint us a picture of what's happening in other places, especially the places that have been declared disaster areas by the president.
As you've rightly put it, Chikwawa is the worst affected district. Together with Nsanje, these are neighboring districts. But the situation is also bad in the other districts. I should mention the fact that 15 of Malawi's 26 districts have been affected by this tropical cyclone. And that means half of Malawi has been affected. In terms of the extent of the damage, honestly speaking, the damage is very bad, much as we are saying Chikwawa is the worst affected district. But what is happening in Chikwawa is quite similar to what is happening in the other districts. For example, in Palombe, where people have lost their household items, their houses have collapsed, they are living in makeshift tents just for survival, and then they are waiting for food and non-food items so that their life at least has to slowly move back to normal. So that is the situation. It is bad, honestly speaking. Before coming to this interview, I was talking to a colleague who is in Chikwawa, who was giving me an update of the situation, and from her, the situation is very bad. As of this evening, that's when we are going to get an update in terms of so far what is happening on the ground, but the situation is very bad.
And what emergency relief and support does this declaration, we know the president has declared disaster zones, what support does this declaration open up for the people of these areas?
What these people need is humanitarian aid. It could be food or non-food items. Like I said, these people are staying in tents, but these tents are crammed. Like in Chikwawa, there are people that literally are living on a road because the water has subdued and the road is a bit on a high ground. So they know if it continues to rain upstream or if it continues to rain in Chikwawa, they are going to have a little bit of shelter because it is going to take time before the water, before the road is completely submerged in water. And these people, they are staying on the road simply because the tents are filled with so many people. Over 200,000 people have been affected. And by the time we are getting an update this evening, we would be looking at maybe 300,000 people that have been affected. So these people, they are looking for both food and non-food items so that life has to continue going. By non-food items, you're looking at tents for shelter. You're looking at cooking utensils. You're looking at, emergency supplies, looking at women and girls who need sanitary support. There's just so much that these people need.
A neighbour in Mozambique has also been heavily hit by this tropical storm. What's the situation on ground there? What are you hearing?
The situation also in Mozambique is bad. The situation is there's so many people in need of support, in need of humanitarian aid. As for the actual figures, the last time I checked, it was about 20,000 people that have been affected. But I'm sure also by the end of business today or this evening, there should be an update as to how many people have died and also how many people have been rendered homeless. In Malawi, officially, 10 people have died as per the update that was made yesterday. But from the information that I'm getting from Chikwawa, 3 bodies have been found today because some people were washed away with the floods. And as the water is subduing, more bodies are being found. But this is information that needs to be verified and confirmed by the police. So in terms of the numbers of people that have died, an update is going to come this evening, especially from the police. But I can at this point in time, I can say that 3 bodies have been found in Chikwawa after being washed away.
All right, Yvonne, I mean, it's a really tragic situation, and southern African countries have been repeatedly struck by severe storms and cyclones in recent years. But what measures are authorities in these areas putting in place to limit the impact of these storms, which scientists have predicted will continue to occur more frequently?
Honestly, Tenny, this is a very difficult situation because we are talking of people that are used to living in these areas. For them, home are these areas. Oftentimes during the rainy season, some of these people will move upstream, but once the rains are over, they'll go back to those areas because this is where their home, their life depends on that land. And you know that most low-lying areas are very fertile. So for them, moving upstream for good means they're losing out on land that is very fertile. So it has always been a very difficult situation for the government of Malawi to convince people to move upstream for good. But there have been a number of initiatives that have been happening by the government to convince these people to move. But like I'm saying, Some people only move for a shorter period of time. Once the rainy season is over, they are going to move back. It is difficult at this point in time to convince them to move to other areas, because they are looking at, what if we are not going to be given land for cultivation? We are looking at people that are surviving on farming. So they are looking at, am I going to get land for cultivation? Am I going to get a big chunk of land like the land that I have? So these are some of the issues that need to be considered when talking of moving these people to higher grounds. It's not as easy as just telling them, move. There's just so much at stake for them in terms of moving for good.
All right, then, Malawian journalist Yvonne Sundu, thank you so much for joining us and the update on Network Africa. And over in Kenya, once-in-a-generation floods have left scrubland in the north littered with the carcasses of goats and sheep, and the herders who depend on them struggling to eat. In just one area of Marsabit County, herders lost around 20,000 goats and sheep last week after heavy rainfall. Carcasses of goats and sheep littered the scrubland of northern Kenya. This devastation has been wrought by once-in-a-generation flood. Torrential rains were accompanied by colder than normal temperatures and sharp winds ripping through the normally semi-arid grazing land. Herder Gufu lost all his 350 goats.
First of all, these goats were my only means of survival. I have camels, but I don't know where they are. I don't know if they are dead or alive.
The Kenyan Meteorological Department said parts of the Marsabit County experienced 90 millimeters of rain in just one day last week. The last time the area was hit by similar rains was 1998. In just one area of Marsabit, herders lost around 20,000 goats and sheep. That's according to Roba Koto, the top official in North Hall constituency. He says after the storm and flood came a drought which weakened livestock.
The percentage number of animals that have succumbed as a result of drought, we made an assessment, is almost 40%. The remaining balance, 90% of the remaining balance have succumbed to this rainfall. The nomads on this end, livestock is their backbone. Livestock is their mainstay. This is the only activity they are engaged in. I am sure with the death of all these animals, it is going to be a very difficult life for this nomad.
The drought had already made the animals unsellable and left more than 2 million people in the region struggling to eat. U.S. government agency, the Famine Early Warning Systems Network, said it was the third straight season of poor rains in eastern and northern Kenya, where grazing is a main source of income. Experts say climate change is expected to increase the frequency and severity of such droughts. Authorities in Ghana have denied introducing a compulsory insurance scheme for all travelers arriving in the country through the main airport. The National Insurance Commission says the scheme, popularly known as Akwaba, had not been approved, and any reports that it had should be disregarded. The reports had been met with criticism from travel sector players and business experts who said it would be another hurdle to doing business in the country. And still to come on the program. Ugandan author accused of insulting the president freed for a second time. More details in a moment. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. The Africa Centers for Disease Control Director, Dr. John Nkengasong, says 40 countries on the continent have now reported cases of the Omicron variant. While speaking at the weekly CDC Africa briefing, he says 46 countries are going through the fourth wave, while 8 countries are currently going through a fifth wave. He adds that data shows that cases across the continent have gone up the peak and are now starting to decrease.
If we look at the trends since last week we met, we've recorded a total number of 228,000 new cases. And that represents about 12% decrease. 12% decrease. So it seems we've gone up the peak and we are beginning to decrease. And in terms of deaths, we recorded from last week to today, 2,300 new deaths. And that represents also a 19% average decrease in the number of deaths. If we now look at the 4 weeks period, as we usually do, and compare the period between up to yesterday, we recorded a total of about 5% average decrease, 5% average decrease over the last 4 weeks. In terms of new deaths, we've also recorded 18% average increase, which is expected as you see the number of new cases. Even when they begin to peak, those who were infected previously, you continue to see deaths occurring there. We hope that over the next couple of weeks, you'll begin to see a decrease in the number of these deaths. With regards to vaccines, a total of 580 million COVID doses have been received on the continent. And of that number, 64% total have been administered, with about 11% of the population fully vaccinated, 11%. Egypt is reporting a 24% fully vaccinated eligible population, Morocco 62%, South Africa 27%, Mozambique 29%, and Nigeria 2.5%.
Citizens and residents must now be fully vaccinated against COVID to access public spaces and events. According to the Prime Minister's office, a nightly curfew will begin from midnight and nightclubs and music concerts are set to reopen. Nearly 7 million out of a population of 13 million have been fully vaccinated in Rwanda, while more than 8 million have got the first jab. That's one of the highest rates in Africa relative to its population and the first in East Africa. But the decision means that millions of people still need to get the second jab to access public places. Though vaccination is voluntary, there have been reports of people being vaccinated by force, and some have fled to neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo and Burundi to escape the jab. And after a narrow escape from violence, a refugee now in Chad gave birth to triplets. But with just limited resources provided to refugees, the mother of 7 is struggling to feed her family. In total, violence has displaced more than 100,000 people, both inside Cameroon and across the border into Chad. Women and children account for around 90% of those registered refugees. We'll have that report for you soon. In the meantime, Nigeria and the UK have taken greater steps in strengthening its age-long relationship for development through its diaspora. This is according to the Deputy High Commissioner, Mrs. Gill Atkinson, and the Political Minister, British High Commission, Mr. Jonathan Bacon, who paid a courtesy visit to the chairman of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Honorable Abike Dabirewa, in Abuja. The Deputy High Commissioner acknowledged the rich list of Nigerians in the UK performing excellently in various fields. She spoke that one key mission is to harness potentials and resources between the two countries to cause even development and promote people-to-people contacts.
We've been talking about the reach and the depth of the Nigerian diaspora in the UK, who we and the Minister for Africa know that there are Nigerians at the top of every profession you can think of in the UK. And what we've been discussing is how we can work together to bring representatives of this community together to better understand the relationship between our two countries, how our two governments work together, and also to harness their shared potential for the betterment of Nigeria. And we've had a great discussion.
Receiving the UK delegation, Honourable Abike Dabirewa expressed her interest in working hand in hand with the British High Commission in Abuja to create a win-win situation for the UK and Nigeria.
What we are trying to do is ensure that you talk about potentials, harness these resources. So what can they also do back in their home country? So working with you to have better engagement with them, I think will go a long way to be a win-win situation both for the UK and Nigeria, because we're talking about human capital development. We're talking about the diaspora, our diaspora, who are doing great things all over the world, including the UK. So we look forward to that partnership with you and working on further engagement with the diaspora.
Yeah. Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema has come under attack from the opposition because of his frequent trips abroad. Mr. Hichilema on Wednesday made his 9th foreign trip since taking office in August last year. His latest trip is a 2-day visit to South Africa for talks with his counterpart, Cyril Ramaphosa, as well as attending a book launch. But the opposition Socialist Party has questioned the trip after his meeting with Mr. Ramaphosa was described as a courtesy call. While in the opposition, Mr. Hichilema often criticized foreign trips undertaken by his predecessor, Edgar Lungu. A Ugandan author accused of insulting the president and his family has been released after being rearrested moments after a court freed him on bail. According to his lawyers, Kakawenza Rukira Bashaija was dumped by the military at the gate of his home in eastern Uganda. The author is said to be feeling unwell and has been taken to hospital for treatment. The award-winning writer was charged with offensive communication after he was accused of insulting President Yoweri Museveni and his son on Twitter. He successfully obtained bail from a Kampala court before he was rearrested in unclear circumstances. Let's head back to that report on the security situation in Cameroon now, where a refugee who has given birth to triplets is struggling to feed her children.
Pregnant Fatim Eliane journeyed for 3 days by foot and dug out canoe last month to flee violence in northern Cameroon between herders, farmers and fishermen. Upon arriving in neighboring Chad, an equally daunting test awaited her. 3 weeks later, the 32-year-old mother of 7 gave birth to triplets in a hospital in the capital, N'Djamena.
Even when I was pregnant in Cameroon, I didn't know I was carrying triplets, but physically I was in pain. I couldn't walk a few meters without sitting down. And when conflict broke out, I said to myself that given my condition, it was urgent that I take shelter with my 7 other children.
Eliane fled her ethnic Musgoom fishing and farming village last month when it was attacked by Arab Chowa herders who burned down her neighbor's house. According to the UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, more than 100,000 Cameroonians fled the violence and dozens were killed in the tit-for-tat reprisal attacks, which broke out following dispute over dwindling water resources. Eliane's husband and 3 eldest children stayed in Cameroon, where they sought refuge at a site for internally displaced persons. In Chad, she now has 7 young mouths to feed from the limited rations provided to the refugees.
The birth of the triplets is a blessing, but I am very worried because we have no food or money. Without assistance from the authorities, we will not be able to find food for the mother and her newborns.
Eliane now lives in a refugee camp in Kalambari. She has started selling donuts at the local market not far from the refugee camp to help provide for her family. Chad is home to close to 1 million refugees, and the United Nations Refugee Agency says internally displaced people and its resources to respond to their needs are critically low.
And that's the program. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Teniola Shobowale. Bye for now.